This week, episode 287 of Stogie Geeks, we interview Jon Huber from Crowned Heads. This is going to be an awesome interview. He has a fascinating resume. He's been in the industry for a long time. We're going to talk a little bit about how things used to be with marketing and how things are now at marketing. We're going to talk all things Crowned Heads. If you have a question, email me at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. I'll get it on the show, so you got to act now. Right here on this edition of Stogie Geeks.
This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geek Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. Joe and I are already silly.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Hozempa, a.k.a. Joe Hollywood, is here with me in studio.
I'm fired up.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Welcome to Stogie Geeks, episode 287. I'm your host this week, Joe Hozempa. We have live via Skype Jon Huber from Crowned Heads Cigars. You definitely got to check them out. Jon, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Joe, I'm good, man. It's Friday. Last day of the week. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. You are certainly no stranger to the cigar industry, for sure. If you want to check out the notes on Jon, all you have to do is go to stogiegeeks.com/287. That's this episode number, as well as any of the other shows. You can check them out all on stogiegeeks.com. Jon is a partner and owner of Crowned Heads Cigars. And if you have a question for Jon and you want to get it on the show, flash me an email, joeh@stogiegeeks.com, or you can reply or PM over on the message board over on the Facebook Live where we are currently right now. So, Jon, tell us a little bit about your transition from going from a classic-facing big cigar company to what Crowned Heads is today. And I do want to get into a little bit of your mission statement because I think that it kind of resonates with what's going on within the industry today, for sure.
Sure. Well, I mean, I started, my first day in the business was April 15th, 96. So that goes way back, with CAO. And, you know, very long story short, I got into the business because I wanted to be in the business, not because I answered a want ad or it was on Craigslist. I don't even think they had Craigslist at that time. But yeah, no, I'd fallen in love with cigars, man. I walked into a cigar store by happenstance to buy cigars for my dad, take him a gift. And as soon as I walked into the humidor, that smell of cedar and tobacco, it was like light bulb moment. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to work in this business. And I tried everything, man. I took an issue of Cigar Aficionado. I wrote letters to everybody in the magazine, every company. I even have a rejection letter from Gordon Mott, who was the senior editor at Cigar Aficionado at the time. And everybody said no if they even said anything. I even tried to get a job at that cigar store that I bought the cigars from for $7 an hour, and I couldn't get hired there either. So, you know what I mean? This was like, I couldn't get arrested in this business. And then finally, the very last ad in that magazine was an ad from a company called CAO International at the time. And it was on Kendall Drive in Nashville, Tennessee. I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. So sent the letter, got a couple of interviews and kind of finagled my way into a ground level, entry level position with CAO at the time.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
Yeah. I think that the cigar consumer has a couple of moments when they go to a cigar shop, right? When they go to the retail store, that's why I'm such a fan of the retail stores. However, the dynamic of the retail store has certainly changed, and we're going to get to that. But, you know, I think that there is a certain allure that takes the consumer to a different time and depending on where they are within their mental space, it takes them into a different space. And as consumers start to frequent a cigar shop, there's almost this kind of calling, this silent calling of, wow, for some of us who say, I would love to work in the industry, or I would love to be part of this industry. Some just like to go have a stick, smoke a stick, and be with friends. But for the ones that really get the calling, at the time, 1996, I would probably say I had my calling as well about that time, for sure. 1996, I started my first corporate job. I was working for a Fortune 50 company. And, what comes after wearing a suit and tie to work every day? You're going to go out with some of the old timers. What do? They like to go smoke cigars, And so we talked, different marketing and sales strategy and stuff like that. Most of them talked about what's going on in the office and all that. But, it gets to a point, and then it gets to a point where, like, wow, I would really like to either, be involved in the industry and then go through that. And I think that, back then, you applying, getting Cigar Official magazine, which back then, that was it. That was the consumer's gateway into the industry. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was no social media. There was no Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You literally waited, 4 times a year for that magazine to come out. And, and then that's when you read about everything from Opus X to whatever Cuban cigar. I mean, that was it, man. There was no other news avenue.
Yeah, and then I remember flipping through the ads, how much advertising was important to them, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing what some of the products were, where they were going, and doing that. And then now, fast forward, here we are, 2018, where not only can listeners catch an interview via podcast, but now you, as a business, have the methodology to let your consumers get an exclusive view of what you're doing as well. And that's been a huge game changer for that. How have you...
If you think back, I remember I used to get every issue of Cigar Aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no slam on them. It's just kind of a reflection of the times. But I remember at their peak, I think Demi Moore was on the cover. And
Mm-hmm.
that thing was that thick. I mean, it was just packed with ads from every cigar company, from Cartier to Ferrari, all these different luxury goods. It was thick. Now that magazine is probably a third of that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still the leader in the industry. I'm no slam on them, but the way people consume news these days has changed the scope of everything, and it's almost eliminated the need for print advertising. Print media is kind of a thing of the past when I can just pick up my phone and go to Instagram and immediately I know what Pete's doing or Dion's doing or what Cigar Aficionado's doing or what Joe's doing at Stogie Geeks. I mean, it's right there and it's free.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How
has that changed sort of your messaging and positioning? And I wonder, I guess, how do you think that would change if you were still with a bigger corporation?
I think for what we're doing now, we're perfectly matched with social media, because to me, print advertising was very contrived. It was very forced. It was very postured. You had to create this image and translate it into this ad with this clever little catch line or slogan. And it was very, very contrived. Whereas Crowned Heads is more organic, more authentic, more what you see is what you get. And so you could look at our Instagram on, twice a day, you'll see snapshots of what's going on here at the moment, at the time. It's real. It's not fixed. It's not contrived. It's not posed. It's authentic. And I think that was one of the pillars that we, meaning Mike and I, started the company on. We wanted to be authentic. We didn't want to be contrived and postured. We didn't want to pretend we were two Cuban expatriates in a field and that we knew everything about tobaccos and things like that, because it's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, CAO was great in its day for what it did. And I think that Crowned Heads is very well suited for today's, avant-garde social media. I mean, we don't do print advertising. We haven't had a need to, knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
We started this business a little less than 7 years ago with 66 stores. and now we're like over 900, and we're in Germany and we're in Canada, and that's all been literally strictly through social media, word of mouth, and just being partnered with really great people in this business in terms of tobaccos, with Ernesto Perez Carrillo and with the Garcia family,
Yep.
and now most recently Drew Estate, Willie Herrera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What's the relationship then with the retailers from when you started, I guess, with Crowned Heads back in 2011 versus now? Because what I'm noticing here on the East Coast, and I'm speaking from Maine through Florida from when I do most of my travels, and I don't know, like since 2009 8, we have this boutique revolution. All the boutique cigars like itself's coming in at the time. So getting that market share, producing phenomenal product that's really keeping the classic facings really on their toes for sure. I mean, if you look at it, right? I mean, the idea and this, again, this is no dig to like Romeo and Julieta, but the idea of Romeo and Julieta trying to get into a Nicaraguan tobacco finally is just testament that, number one, the boutiques are here to stay. Number two, the creativity just starts. I don't want to say it's even at its peak yet. It's really starting to really come through for some of the smaller cigar companies. And, a lot of the reason is, the barrier to entry into the cigar industry is a lot lower. With social media in there, you have more of a catalyst. You have more of a platform for success to get your word out there, as opposed to if you were trying to launch this and your only outlet was a print publication. That I don't think that most of the cigar companies would be positioned there now. Having said all of that, what's the relationship been like with the retailers? Because what I find is there seems to be somewhat, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there seems to be somewhat of just a lack of creativity when it comes to them getting behind some of the brands.
it sounds like a question more for a retailer than a brand owner.
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking about a lack of creativity on the retail front, that's probably more directed towards them. I mean, to go back to your synopsis of boutique and all that, first and foremost, I don't know what boutique even means anymore. I mean, it's just kind of like I think that's a word that people use in this business for everybody that's not Altadis or General.
Sure.
Or Fisher, it's like everybody else, your boutique. But that's I don't know what that means. But I think the game changed even before 08, 09. I mean, I'll tell you specifically for me, when I think the game change was 03. And that's when Pete came out with Tatuaje. And prior to that, there wasn't that boutique resurgence. And here comes a guy with a cigar that's with a name that's almost impossible to pronounce. Everybody botches the name. A very understated band, plain cabinet boxes, and a high price point. Like all the strikes are against him, right? But because the focus was on the tobacco and on the product as opposed to the marketing, the advertising, and all that, people found it. It found an audience, and that started something different and something new. And that's when I think the boutique, quote unquote, thing started to take off. Then you saw Dion come out with Illusion, like in 05. And then so all these guys, these are the guys, to me, are like the forefathers of the boutique movement, right? But in terms of lack of creativity from retailers, to be perfectly blunt and honest with you, I don't get into enough stores to make an assessment about retailers. I'm not going to like sit here behind my screen and say, oh, they do this, they don't do that. Not fair, because I just don't know their world as well as they don't know mine.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I can't speak to that.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But has there been any type of catalyst for your success in, like you said, you started with 60 shops or so, and then you're now, you now have more, and
right.
you're getting better and better. Is it that you're sticking to the point of the tobacco, or is it that is it customer service delivery? Is it a messaging and positioning?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, next question.
Yes, across the board. No, I mean, like when Mike and I first sat down and talked about what would become Crowned Heads, I said, look, I want to work with you first. He used to be my boss at CAO, basically. He was the VP of marketing, and I reported to Mike. So when CAO was on its way to Richmond, we kind of saw the end in sight around 2010. And he said, hey, when this is all done, do you want to do something? And I said, absolutely. We had a great relationship, partnership, friendship, what have you. I respected him. We got along great. So I had no hesitation towards that. But I said, but under the pretense that I don't want to create CAO 2.0. I don't want to do the same thing over again. I want to do this thing differently. And he was like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, I want to put the emphasis into the product, into the tobaccos. And I kind of knew from behind the scenes that a lot of what drove us at CAO to a very high level of success, by the way, was packaging, marketing, and clever, ideas, as opposed to let's start with the tobaccos first, get a great blend, and let that blend speak to the packaging and marketing. So I said, I want to do it in reverse. I want to put the emphasis on working with the right people and make this about the cigar, not about the marketing, not about the box, not about a box that looks like an iPod and you open it up and it lights up, and I didn't want to do that. So Mike was like, yeah, that was CAO vision.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that one. I know.
So,
yeah.
At any rate, so he was very amenable to that, and he kind of let me drive the creative aspect of Crowned Heads, and he drove the business projections, purchase orders, cash flow, and all that. And to this day, that's pretty much our arrangement, and it works. So so I never really wanted to do that all over again. I never wanted to do a flavored cigar in the first place, but that wasn't my decision to make. And so, to attribute our success now, I think it really, not trying to be corny or anything, but I think it really goes back to working with the right people. We were lucky enough to be able to partner right away with Ernesto Perez Carrillo. And to me, Ernie he was like one of those guys I read about in Cigar Aficionado magazine back in the day.
Sure.
La Gloria Cubana, this guy, he's literally in the Hall of Fame of Cigar Aficionado. I went to his induction ceremony. So I used to read about that guy, and I was just like, man, pinch me, I'm dreaming. This guy we're going to work on a cigar together, right? So, and then fast forward 2-3 years later, and then we're sitting there with the Garcias at my father's cigar talking about doing something with them. So it really comes down to, this basically, the cigar. And if the cigar is good, and people are going to find out about it, they're going to hear about it, they're going to talk about it. Social media makes this a very small world. So, word travels fast. But it all goes back to having the right people doing this, and the right people, the right tobaccos and the right blends. It's about the product. And if you have a good product, people are going to find it. I go back to 2003 with Pete, I mean, people found it real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. Take us through the starting phases. What was it like to work with Ernesto? I mean, we've had him here on the show a couple of times, and again, fascinating interviews, fascinating guy, resume. I love his candor when he's like, just don't ask me about exact blends of the old stuff because I probably forgot it. Right? It's like, okay, that's a done deal. Right? But how is that like? Because you now want to start this company, and you've decided to go with them. What were some of the kind of profiles that you were looking for each of the blends?
So to take you through the process, Mike and I decided to formulate this company. We spent literally 4 or 5 weeks holed up in a room with blank sheets of white paper, and just really kind of carved into a philosophy statement, a mission statement, if you will. And the reason why we spent so much time on that is we figured if we put that on the wall and we agreed to those principles, everything that we would do going forward would have to tie back to those, whether it was making a cigar or a box or a band or a hat or a T-shirt or an in-store promo, whatever had to adhere to those principles. So that was very important to us that we established that statement, which is still, it's on our philosophy page today on our website. Second part was coming up with a name for the company. And I was tasked with that. So I spent about 3 weeks just writing in this notebook all these different names, and some of them he liked that I didn't, and vice versa. And then there were a list that we both liked that the attorneys didn't like and said you couldn't use it because of X, Y, and Z. finally, I was watching Wizard of Oz one day on an iPad, and there's a scene in the Wizard of Oz where she's going through and she meets Professor Marvel in this dream sequence, and it says Professor Marvel, Crowned Heads of Europe, past, present, future. And I froze that, took a picture, sent it to Mike. I said, what about the name Crowned Heads? And he liked it. And I wanted to make something kind of ubiquitous that didn't say like Jon Huber Cigars or C&H Cigars or something. It had to be something that if we wanted to branch out past cigars that you could use. Crowned Heads could be a whiskey. Crowned Heads could be a coffee. Crowned Heads could be whatever. So, that's how, and then once we announced that, we had to figure out who's going to make the cigars. So then we went on a little road trip of different places. Starting off, we flew down into Tampa, met with some people. Then we flew down to Nika, DR, what have you. And, and then we came back home, and, I'm really kind of condensing everything. And then we went back to those white sheets and said, okay, here are the 4 criteria we're going to rate each of these people on. And it was like trust, ratings, connections, and whatever.
Yep.
And we literally were very pragmatic about that. And at the end of all of that, it came down to one guy, and it was Ernie. And then we were like, okay, well, do you think at that point, he hadn't made a contract brand for anybody. He'd only just made, La Gloria Cubana and all his brands. And then he was making some General stuff, sold it to General. Then he started EPC Cigar Company again in 2009. So he wasn't doing cigars for anybody else. So then we had to convince him to make, cigars for these 2 white boys over here in Nashville. And, luckily he was down with it. It was good. So, and that's how we started. So then we flew down there and started looking at tobaccos and started to think about blends and all that. And to me, working with Ernie was like, I got my undergrad degree at CAO, and then I got my graduate degree with Ernesto, because he was teaching me stuff about tobaccos that I'd never done before in the 12 years or 14 years leading up to that. Just little tricks. He would take a specific, like a Ligero from Esteli, and he'd light it, and then he'd wave it like this, like a magician under your nose. He's like, take a hit. No, take a hit. And then you'd be like, oh my God, and then your eyes are tearing up, and he's like, that's how you tell the strength of tobacco. He's like, not necessarily in your taste, but you burn it, you smell it. Little things like that I learned from him along the way, and really kind of, I kind of cut my chops with Ernie. So it was a couple of 2-3 months of doing all that kind of stuff that we came up with the first blend, which we wanted it to be something that was easily approachable and smokable by everybody, whether you were brand new to cigars or somebody that's been smoking cigars for years that could appreciate the complexity and the flavor profile. And that's what would become 4 Kicks. That was kind of like the foundation of the house. And then everything else kind of transpired after that.
Mm-hmm. What can you spend? You take me back. I believe when you first came out, there were 3, correct? That started, or at least there were 3 in the Regency. I'm going off the top of my head here. You had
3 cigars, or 3?
Three different blends. When you
started off with 4 Kicks.
Okay, yep. You had 4 Kicks. Right? Then you had Headley Grange.
After 4 Kicks, we came out with Headley Grange. And then after Headley was J.D. Howard.
Yep.
And then after that, I believe, was Jericho Hill, and that was the first regular production brand from the Garcia family.
Mm-hmm. What profiles, if you can share with the listeners, that you were trying to gather, and from a branding and marketing perspective, how did you come up with some of those names?
4 Kicks was derived from a song by Kings of Leon that I was listening to over and over for the last 5 months at CAO. It's all very lyrically driven. It was very rebellious. I was in a mind state at that point with corporate America, corporate cigars, and that song pretty much summed it up for me.
Actually, I read that. I believe it was I don't know if it was Cigar Insider or something like that, where you were almost like with the foundation and the mission statement, you were musically driven. They made it a point to say that within their description of you, where I believe the word, I did put it on our site. It was with a lot of with a lot of concentration on social media and listening to a lot of music for inspiration.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
That's how they described you. So
I think I kind of for a while got stuck in that bucket of like, oh, they're a musical inspired company, and they all at one point people thought I was like a musician, and no, I'm not, and you know all these kind of you know bullshit things, what have you. But
isn't it amazing
no,
how a brand can kind of take on itself?
I just think that you know, like to me, this is kind of gonna get a little bit out there, but bear with me. I think that inspiration is all around, and you don't like create stuff, things get created through you. You just kind of have to open your mind up to things, and it may be a song that inspires you, it may be a film, it may be a piece of art, it may be you know anything. You just have to be open to it, and the creativity will flow. And that's kind of where I put myself in that mindset, and like I'm looking for inspiration, and you know a lot of ideas that come to me, it's like I kind of have this thing like, you know, hang them up, not literally, but mentally I hang them up on the fridge and I come back to it in a couple of 2-3 weeks. And if it still resonates, it's a good idea. If it doesn't, then I'm like, I'm glad I had some bad pizza that night and came up with that idea, and that didn't work out. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of it's musically driven. Some of it's historically driven. Some of it's driven by personalities. Some of it's driven by feelings. I mean, some of it's just complete fiction. You know, we did a cigar for Altadis. Altadis wanted us to do a riff on Monte Cristo, and it was it became Monte Cristo Ciudad de Música, which is an acronym for CDM, which also is an acronym for Casa de Monte Cristo. But I couldn't, you know, it was kind of I looked at it like an honor that Monte Cristo, you know, Altadis wanted us to put our fingerprints on this iconic brand. So I wanted to. Once I got my head wrapped around the project, I'm like, I wanted to do justice, but I couldn't find any historical relevance. I couldn't make it have a reason to exist. So I literally created the story myself.
Mm-hmm.
That story is printed in each box of cigars that are distributed by Altadis.
Mm.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes if it's not there, you just make it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
I do think that like all of our brands have a reason to exist. All of them have a specific story, and I think there's a reason for that, because I just, you know, to call something, you know, Florida XYZ or Casa de da 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 da, or you know, it's irrelevant. It's bullshit. If it doesn't mean something to you, why should it mean something to somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the one takeaway that you want for your consumers who consume your products when they want to associate themselves with the brand?
I think it's you know, well, first and foremost, enjoy the product. You know, I mean, that's why we do what we do, is to create an enjoyable commodity or a consumable. But I think that one of the things that we set forth to do with Crowned Heads is to create more of a philosophy and an aspirational brand, and show people that, you know, you really can do anything. You really can. I mean, here's two guys that, you know, they're not third generation Cubans. They're not, you know, we're in Nashville, Tennessee, nowhere near, you know, Esteli or Florida or Miami, but we were able to quote unquote carve our own path and create our own thing and create our own world, if you will. And that was always important to me, was that cigars were going to be the way that the message was delivered, but the message is bigger than just the cigars. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of it. Like even on this ring that I wear, it says CYOP, carve your own path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's been our thing since day one. Is like, you know, be an example to people that you can create your own destiny, your own life, your own world. You don't have to be, you know, in the rat race, so to speak. You can do something differently.
Yeah, I think that it speaks to the testament of both you and Mike, where, you know, you want to leave the corporate, go out on your own, and you guys literally did carve your own path. And it's nice to see that philosophy not only go in action, but just the uniqueness of some of the names, some of the branding, the recognition, the actual name of the company. It really sticks, you know. Week after week, we interview all different facets of the cigar industry, and you know, some names. It's great to get the story of the name, and most of them, you know, do have a significant meaning to them, which I think is a great place to start. You know, as you know, being in this industry, you really need to kind of stay on your toes. You produce a good product. Say what you do. Do what you say. If not, it finds out very quickly because
Sure.
of the not only because of social media, but because of the closeness of the industry there. And I think that with your carve your own path, when, like I said, from a consumer perspective, when I first got introduced to Crowned Heads, I noticed that there was something unique about this company that kind of the uniqueness, kind of fades in and out in regards to the consumer, which I think, kind of resonates with the way that you're articulating the brand. But I like the way that you're maverick enough, both of you, to just say, hey, this is what we stand for. This is what we're going to do. And this is our position. And I think that it's definitely worked for you for sure.
Thank you. And in a nutshell, that's basically it. I mean, you put a stake in the ground and say, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to, whether it works out or it doesn't, this is how we're going to do it. And early on, for instance, I had, a lot of pushback from certain retailers saying that, oh, you're never going to make it because you're not doing events and you're not out there and you'll never make it in this business. It's not going to work. I'm like, okay. And, 7 years later, that retailer told me that particular thing, I see him every year at the TAA show and he buys a ton of our product. And I'm like, yeah, we just kind of guess I proved you wrong. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think
there's a little bit of vindication on that. It makes me feel good, but
of course,
I just think there's different ways to go about it. Just because everybody has to go right doesn't mean you can't turn left and go down a different road and get to the same destination. Shit. Not everybody has to do, wear a polo shirt and do a buy three, get one free. Do you want mild, medium, or full? I mean, I've seen that to death.
That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the interview. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy when I get the newsletter and it's like, well, if you come to this event, you buy three, get one free, and you get to meet the rep. It's not even meet the owner anymore. It's meet the rep. And it's like, okay, I know we're not going to go into the retail discussion, but I'm like, can I get like a little bit more, I remember showing up to events where you learn stuff, and I think the consumer clearly wants to learn stuff. I mean, there are tons of podcasts within this industry that proves that the consumers who listen to us want to learn more about the people that we interview and get to know more about the personality.
To me, I was telling this to these guys yesterday in a meeting that we had with our distributors from Canada. I said, today's consumer is so different than the consumer that I knew when I started off in the mid-late 90s. I mean, guys today are so much more educated. Again, thanks to social media, thanks to podcasts like yours, blogs, Half Wheel, all this stuff that on a daily you can get new information and learn more and more and more and more. You don't have to wait for 3 months for a magazine to come out to give you their view of something, right? So, nowadays, today's consumer can break it down. They can tell you that, the Ligero from Esteli is going to give you more strength, and then the Ligero from Jalapa is going to give you a little bit more roundness and sweetness. They know these things. Half of these guys have been down to, the factories and taken tours and blended their own cigars. So it's, which is great. I think it keeps like brand owners, manufacturers, companies, I think it keeps them on their toes. Like, hey, you can't just throw any cigar out there with a clever name and a cool band and sell cigars these days. You got to have a good product. So it's a good time to be a cigar enthusiast, I think, for sure, because everybody has to be 100% on their game in order to compete in this business.
I also think that I want to spend a couple seconds on the cigar enthusiast person, consumer who shows up. I think that, years back, they were in search of their brand, right? So in other words, they'd walk into the shop, they would say, okay, I would try a bunch of cigars, and then they would get to their version of a box purchase, right? And they would get it and put the box in their locker and consume only that cigar for a week, month, year, however it takes them to get through that. And
Absolutely.
Now I'm convinced that the cigar enthusiast who visits the retail store is looking for that creativity envelope to be pushed to get to their palate.
What's the first question that we hear on our side and that the retailers hear on their side. What's new?
Mm-hmm.
What's new? You go to a trade show. What's new?
Yep.
What's new? Everybody wants what's new, and it's like the craft beer mentality. Everybody wants. They don't want Budweiser. They want to be the ones that discovered the new Dogfish or whatever the heck it's called. I'm not a big beer guy, so bear with me. But
no.
Everyone wants to find the next best thing underground before it becomes overexposed. And that mentality's been in our business for a while, man. And everybody wants what's new. They want what's new, like what's coming out next. What's next?
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started off, it was guys were brand loyal.
Mm-hmm.
The dude come in and buy his box of Upmans for a week, or every other week he'd buy a box of Fuentes or whatever, Curly Heads or something, But now, as a brand owner, you just hope to get into somebody's rotation. You don't expect anybody to just smoke Crowned Heads. If they do, God bless them. But if they smoke Crowned Heads and Illusion and Tatuaje and Roma Craft and whatever, then if you're in the conversation, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But you can't expect somebody to be just 100%. There's too many other things out there to enjoy. I mean, I smoke a ton of stuff besides our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can you not?
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the creativity envelope that these cigars are really pushing over to us on consumer, and I look forward to IBCPR, the list that comes out as to who's new, and I try to do a kind of self check, right? Okay, who have we interviewed? Who have I smoked and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
but it has nothing to do with Stogie Geeks. I've been into that. For myself as a consumer of cigars, to I have a couple of brands that there's an ongoing joke here on Stogie Geeks that I can't have an episode go without saying Tataje or Viaje in a sentence, right? Because I'm just a fan of the brands. And with the more and more stuff that comes out, my frequency with those has dissipated over time because I don't want to fill my space not only with like you said, that brand loyalty, but there's only so many cigars I can smoke in a day or a week or however, with my cadence. And I mean I'm lucky enough where I can have a cigar where I work. I shovel through a lot of stuff that gets sent here, Stogie Geeks, of people trying to either get on the show or rekindle themselves and stuff like that. And so I have, plus we do have a review section and whatnot, but, I still have my brands that it's like, I want to smoke this for me. Has nothing to do with my position. And what I find fascinating and now with the consumer is they, friends of the show or listeners to the show who I've never met, I've only met via email, they'll take a picture and say, because I've done an APB here on Stogie Geek saying, let me know what you smoke in your region because I can only get to East Coast,
Right.
and so I can only give you that experience with there. And it's amazing how the email pours in. Have you heard about this? Have you tried this? I found another shop exclusive. I was on a Stogie Geeks screening call with them, and they're going to be coming on the show and they're sending us some stuff, and it's like brands I've never even heard before,
Right.
and it's just so fascinating.
Well, and that's what keeps it new for me too, as a brand owner. It's like I'm no different than the guy walking in the store saying what's new. I mean, that's my first question when I see my friends at the IPCPR. There's like a select little click, and I'll go to each one of them. What do you guys do? What's new? And we'll swap cigars, and we get into it. Man. I really do. It's not. This is a very unique business from this standpoint because it's not just about dollars and cents. Yes, I mean that's how you keep score, and that's how we all eat. But I feel like after being in this business for 22 years, like the guys that are in it are genuine, sincere about what they do, and most of them really love what they do, and they love the product, they love the craft, they love the industry. I'm talking. We all kind of came up like certain of us came up like idolizing the Fuentes and the Padrones and these guys. And I remember my first trade show in '96. Like when I saw like Carlito, I was just like, that was like my Michael Jordan at that time.
Yeah,
like,
sure. Yeah.
I still feel that way though. I still kind of like, I'll have the, pinch me, I'm dreaming moment sometimes if Ernie picks me up in his SUV and we're going to drive over to the factory. It's like when I see him roll up, I'm like, it's fucking Ernesto Perez Carrillo. It's like,
Yeah.
that's you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just, it's weird how things work, how life, comes around it. But I still have that reverence for the business. I still have that reverence for the craft. I mean, there are some guys that have come on lately or, that you could tell that maybe they're not as sincere,
Mm-hmm.
but the guys that I came up with, I mean, we're all still in it today because, this is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I told my wife the other day, I said, man, if this doesn't work out, I don't know who's going to, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Life, right? It's a very unique industry. It's very niche. It's like you can't learn this in school. You got to like spend your life doing it. So I committed to it and pushed all the chips in, and here I am.
Mm-hmm. What did you do before the cigar industry?
Oh shit. Well, my first job out of college, I was a private trainer.
Okay.
In LA. I used to train people. I worked for a very posh gym called Sports Club LA. So I did that and then floundered out of that. And then I did commercial real estate, got my license for about 6 months, made no money. And then I had like some of the worst jobs in the history of life. I mean, that's why I can appreciate doing what I do now. Every day I wake up, I get to go to work because I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
At one point I was telemarketing dog shampoo, telemarketing indoor sun tanning products. I used to have to make phone calls out of this cold call sheet, be like, yeah, this is da 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 from Mr. Crystal's Pet Shampoo. And I was wondering if, we call pet shop stores and stuff. So, I mean, I've had some of the worst jobs ever, man. I mean, there's some dues paying. It's like, there's this dude on Instagram the other day that like literally went after me and said that I was like some punk hiding behind daddy's dollars and I didn't carve my own path and I didn't do this, that, and that. I was like, fuck you, man. You don't know anything about my life.
Yeah, sure.
I earned every fucking thing. I mean, the hard way.
Yeah.
It wasn't handed to me. I went after it. And there was times living in LA where like I was literally like living off of a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter a week.
Sure.
But I didn't tap out. I just kept going and kept going and kept going and pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm in the same boat where I'm very appreciative at the opportunity that I have here, not only at Stogie Geeks but over at Security Weekly, and it's one of those things where it's I don't even know if where I would go either.
Yeah, feeling, man, because
yeah,
when you're all in like that on anything, then typically you're going to be pretty good at it because you've got nowhere else to go. So it's that sense of urgency and that desperation that drives you to create things that you didn't even know were possible.
Yeah.
And that's, again, going back to that whole message, that's what I really wanted to get across to people, because I've met people that feel stuck and feel like, oh, shit, man, I got to go to work, and, God bless him. But, another one of my patriarch's mentors, John Osgoner, who gave me my start in the business, rest in peace. He passed away in October. But he, the stuff that I learned from him, and it wasn't just about cigars and it wasn't just about business. It was about life. And like at one point, like he had a big mantra, like, make it happen. Like if you see something, go for it, make it happen. For instance, one day somebody noticed that people were smoking cigars on this HBO show called The Sopranos. And so somebody said, well, we should get our cigars on that show. And he said, make it happen. And so, there's no fear of failure. You're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go for it. Right.
Yeah.
So, we went after things, made those things happen. And then he said, if you don't love what you do, then don't do it.
Yeah.
If you can't get up every day and be grateful that you're going to your job, if it's work, then don't do it. But if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And he taught me that. And I owe my whole life to that guy.
Yeah, I can kind of very much relate. I've had my I'm done with corporate moment in 2004. When I left corporate Xerox and I started my own business, and it was in marketing and advertising and whatnot. And I just was like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to not go back and do what I got to do. And
at one point in my closet, I had about 30 or 40 ties, neckties.
Yeah.
fucking, it was like a day of, I was like, this is it. I'm all in. I got rid of every single one of them, threw them all out.
Yeah.
And this day, I don't own a tie, and I probably, when I have to go to a funeral, I got to borrow a suit or something because I refuse, man. Life is short. It's not for me. I'm not going to do it.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And like, we don't have our guys wearing Crowned Heads polo shirts because it's like, no, fuck that. Be yourself. Be who you are, and do it your style. So we run kind of a loose ship around here.
It's all good. So, hey, if it works, if it works. A couple questions in regards to what's coming up from Crowned Heads and what can the consumer expect. I mean, what are your kind of focuses on that?
Shoot, man, it's been a busy year. Done a lot of new stuff. But what's coming up, what I'm smoking right now is a project that we just released. It hit Ohio, and I think Monday and Tuesday of this week. It's a cigar called Buckeye Land. It's exclusive to Ohio retailers. It's our third state exclusive. We did Tennessee Waltz for Tennessee, and then Yellow Rose for Texas. Both of those came out in 2014, and they continue to this day to be some of our most popular brands. So Buckeye just landed, no pun intended.
Yeah.
What's unique about this cigar is that it's made by Drew Estate and La Gran Fabrica de Drew Estate in Esteli, blended 100% by Willie Herrera. Like, I've gotten a lot of DMs and people that started to smoke the cigar, like, wow, you did such a great job. I'm like, time out. This is Willie Herrera, man. This is not, I'm just fortunate to be a color on the painting. I was, worked the board behind the console, but this is all Willie. Willie did a fantastic job with this. And so we did that. We're coming out with, what else? There's going to be a Headley Grange LE coming out later next month, end of November. I can't really tell you too much about it, but it's a one and done on the Headley Grange blend with a different wrapper. And then 2019, we're going to be doing another Paniolo, a Hawaii exclusive in February. Then we'll be doing a TAA exclusive with Ernie. We'll be doing Las Calaveras 2019. And it'll be another brand release, a pretty big brand release in 2019 in the summer. Again, I can't really.
That's fine.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be coy about it, right?
No, I got you.
You just can't talk about that stuff. But we started working on it actually in July, August. So this is going to be a year of work that's going to be unveiled in Vegas next July. So yeah, a lot of new stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's the creating the new stuff that makes me happy. It's just having that creative outlet, whether it be a new cigar project coming out or, a new hat or whatever that we're going to design. I love just being able to create new stuff and then putting it out there and seeing if people dig it.
Where can people pick up some of the merchandise? Is that available on your site?
Some of it, yes.
Okay.
I get a lot of inquiries about specifically like the hats that we do from time to time with New Era. The New Era fitted hats. Those never go for sale. They literally, for friends, families, and promotions, I end up we give them all away, basically. We don't sell any of them. So that answers that question. But yeah, we do a ton of headwear. A lot of it sells out pretty quickly. 4 or 6 weeks, we're out of it. Use a lot of it for in-store promotion. So if people want to pick something up, I would encourage them to go to a Crowned Heads Roadshow because that's probably your best bet at getting something like that. But 7 years into this, we've never repeated the same design twice.
Right.
It's always been something new. So when you get a Crowned Heads hat, it's truly a limited edition because usually only about 144 pieces were made. And when they're gone, we're never going to repeat that again. So
yeah, I've had, like I said when we were off air, I've had the experience of getting the Four Kicks hat with the two guns, and I wear that on the golf course and whatnot. It used to be black, now it's kind of gray, and that's
become cool, beaten up and weathered. And
yeah.
Yeah,
and a bunch of people are like, either if I wear it on the show or if I wear it around, like, where'd you get that? You know what I mean? Or they ask. Especially, I know that the cigar enthusiasts, they love their swag for sure.
Yeah, and we try to do. Honestly, no bullshit, but we try to do as quality merchandise as we do cigars, because it's like, I don't want to be that guy that, it gives away a Hanes beefy tee that says Crowned Heads, it's like, this is who you're going to have washing your car with that thing. Right.
Yeah.
I want something that people are going to wear with pride and like seek it out and search it. I mean, we did a hat for Hawaii for the Paniola release in February, and they sold out right away at the event. And then when I got back to the States, guys were selling them for $300 to $500 a piece, and getting $300 to $500 a piece.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was insane. So that to me made me feel really good.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I love the companies that are big on that stuff. I mean, full disclosure, Drew is a sponsor of the show. They send us.
He does a great job with this one.
Yeah. They send us a bunch of stuff there. And a lot of people are like, "Where'd you get that? How'd you get?" And I'm like, they send it on Stogie Geeks. I've
stuff down. I like was texting John for a long time, dude. I with a screenshot of this particular trucker hat they did. So I got to have this hat. Where can you send me one? I was like, it took him months, but finally he got one, sent it to. He's crazy, but yeah. No, I'm into it.
See, I'm totally into it. I go through different stints where I like two things I love outside of the cigar industry. I love hats. I have so many of them, both in and out of the cigar industry. I have hats for a ton of places, ton of things. I love all different styles of hats, and I love backpacks. Right, so I have a backpack for everything. Right, so when I go boxing, I have my boxing bag. When I do MMA, I have that. When I have my work bag, I just had a baby boy, 7 weeks today. He has his own. My best friend bought me a backpack diaper bag. You know what I mean? So he has his own backpack diaper bag. It's actually pretty cool because on the side it flips. It's got the wipies and everything. It's good stuff, right? I love.
Are you sleeping?
Actually, ironically, I am. He does not sleep well during the day. He's getting his 14 hours total when you're looking at it there. But he'll go now 6 hours because we're up to 4 ounces. So he'll go 6 ounce. He'll go 4 ounces, 6 hours sleep, 5 hours sleep, a break in between, and then go. And now we're going through a phase where he's waking up about 10 minutes before my alarm. And just full candor, it's my firstborn son, and I've always been a snooze guy, right? So like that's like the worst, right? Because I've always been like snooze about 2 or 3 times, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh man, I just blew a half hour just doing that. But I've always been a snooze guy. I've never been a morning person until about 7 weeks ago. Because we're working every day, and then on the weekends it's like, wow, let me get up early and do my stuff so that when he eventually gets going and whatnot. But yeah, so we are sleeping. Mom, who's home,
you'll get to a point where like one day you'll wake up and you'll have like the best night's sleep, and you'll be like, is he okay? Is he dead? It's like.
That was actually last week.
And then that's the time when they sleep through the night and you go, holy crap, like I'm not used to that,
Yeah, that was actually Saturday morning last week because I never set an alarm. I figured he'd be up, and he woke up and he went 7.5 hours. And I was like, whoa.
That's more sleep than I've gotten this week.
Yeah, he did not sleep at all for that day. He was ready to go, and he sits there and kicks and whatnot. It's good stuff for sure, But yeah, but I've always loved the hats and have done that.
I'm huge. My wife and I share a walk-in closet, and the top shelf is just I'm very OCD. So like I have like truckers, then I have snapbacks, strapbacks, fitteds, on and on and on down. And it's like it gets to a point where like they start falling off the shelf. That's when I got to clean it out, and then I'll put them in a carton, put them in the garage, and then I'll get the next ones in. And it's like my wife's like, how many more hats do you need? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an obsession with me.
Absolutely. So I could totally relate to that for sure. I have bins of hats. I pull them out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's good stuff, But I do want to thank you for your time. Thank you for appearing on the show. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your business information and being open. Especially.
What's your fitted hat size?
Excuse me.
Your fitted hat size.
Is it New Era? Because that's changed. 758.
Next round.
That's-
we gave out our last 7 5/8. I got a quarter, I got a couple of halves, and I got some 3/8, and that's it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, let me check the New Era because something's happened with New Era. I'm a Yankee fan, and every time I go to the Yankee Stadium, I buy the hat. I've been to Old Timers Day. I remember one Old Timers Day I couldn't go, but my former employee from my agency went, and I said, "Get me a hat." I gave him my size, and it's like way too big, and I was like, I think they changed the size. And then they did change the size on the New Era
for the
stuff.
on-field, like all the player stuff.
Okay.
That's still literally made by hand by women at sewing machines in Buffalo. But a lot of their promotional stuff will come from overseas, and there is a little discrepancy in the size. I've noticed that as well. But they make the best stuff.
What I'll do is when I go home, I'll check my latest size, and I'll just flash you an email.
Yeah, sure.
And if I get lucky,
I'll send it to you. But
if I get lucky, I get lucky.
At 7.5, it won't be on this round because they go pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I get requests from guys with 8s and 8.5s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're better off just getting a bucket and putting a Crowned Heads sticker on it because
yeah,
just don't send them that big to us.
Yeah.
7 5/8 is usually the biggest we get. So.
Yeah. Let me double check that. It might be slightly.
I mean, I'll
slightly
put
smaller.
together something for you anyway, cigars and some snapbacks or whatever, and be happy to send it out your way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me on. It's been fun to chat.
Thank you. Thank you very much for appearing on Stogie Geeks. Hope you enjoyed the interview. We'll see you next time.